Good afternoon and welcome to our regular council meeting for April 4th, 2022. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional territories and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Nation, which include the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. We're making this acknowledgement to demonstrate our continuing efforts to work together as we strive for reconciliation through increased and collective learning. And before we get started here, I just kind of want to mention, I want to say our council condolences to the Smith family on the passing of former mayor of Brooks, Dale Smith. Dale was a town councillor in 1974 to 1977 and was mayor of Brooks in 1977 to 1980. And I just want to point out that he was mayor of Brooks at a time when the community underwent substantial growth due to the energy crisis of the 1970s. Brooks had tripled in size in a 10-year period from a population of 3,000 to 9,000 in that span. And that council of the day, including Mayor Smith, had to deal with challenges of the new construction and the influx of new residents into the community. His funeral will be this Friday at 11 a.m. at the Free Evangelical Church. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Goodenough that the agenda be adopted and be amended with the deletion of delegation item 5B, Eco Brooks Community Presentation, concept of expanding the committee. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Idris that the minutes from the regular council meeting held March 21st, 2022 be approved. Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councillor Jessica that the Shortgrass Library System presentation be accepted as information. And Petra Meroff, CEO, would you please come forward, turn on your mic. Welcome to our Brooks Council meeting.
Thank you so much for having me.
The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Petra Meroff, and I'm the CEO for Shortgrass Library System. The City of Brooks has been a member of Shortgrass Library System basically since its inception over 30 years ago, and we are very grateful for the continued partnership. I was just saying to John, I do this all the time, but I still get really nervous, and I'm going to try not to speed race through this presentation. I'm going to use this presentation to illustrate why this partnership is a good deal for the City of Brooks, the Brooks Public Library, and the residents, both financially and in terms of community benefits. A brief background for those who are not familiar with what Shortgrass Library System is. Shortgrass Library System is essentially a municipal membership co-op. And what that means is that within the geographic region that we're assigned, municipalities can take out a membership in Shortgrass and pay a membership municipal levy every year. And in return, the libraries within their community receive what we call library support services from Shortgrass Library System. And the type of support services that we provide fall into pretty much three categories. There's the technology services, as you can see on the handout on page 1. And the technology services includes the library catalog, the library's online presence in general, Wi-Fi and internet in the library, the VoIP phone service we provide, and the licensing of digital resources. The second category is what we call resource sharing, and it's a bit of library jargon. It basically means sharing stuff between the 14 libraries, and that takes everything that takes the shape of deliveries between the 14 libraries within Shortgrass, but it also connects the Brooks Public Library to every library in Alberta. There's 320 of them. And it also means the acquisition and cataloging of the various physical library materials, because of course now we don't just have one library purchasing items, we have 14 libraries purchasing together, which means they're spending over $250,000 a year, and suddenly vendors will talk to you, and suddenly vendors will give you a discount that mysteriously previously was not available when you weren't spending as much. So there's a huge advantage there in the discounts of the bulk purchases and significant cost savings. The third type of support I would categorize as advocacy or marketing, and it includes training for library staff. And some examples include the support we provide for summer reading program. In the Brooks Public Library, we know summer reading programs are hugely important for the kids to retain their literacy throughout the summer. We often see a lot of reading skill loss throughout the summer in kids, and then they re-enter school in September and have a significant disadvantage if they haven't participated in summer reading programs. We prepare programming kits. We provided some municipal election advocacy campaign materials. And last fall, we started a new initiative, which was a membership drive. And it actually resulted in almost 6% increase in membership for the Brooks Public Library, which we consider a great success. And we thought that was really fantastic. On the second page of the handout, I included some statistics and financial information just to illustrate the benefits to the city and its residents in terms of tax dollars, essentially. I always like to say we like to make really good use of tax dollars. If a taxpayer walked into our facility and said, "Show me what you're doing with my money," we can say with a good conscience, we squeeze every penny. I used to administer library services in Nova Scotia, and when you've been that broke, you really learn to squeeze every penny. And as I mentioned in the letter to council that accompanied the invoice for the membership levy this year, since 2012, so over the last 10 years, our levy, our membership fees have only risen by 5.43%. Over a 10-year period, that is really significant, and I think it's a great illustration of how much we've managed to reduce our operating expenses, and especially since we adopted our Lean Six Sigma operating philosophy, we are running a very, very tight ship. I included some examples on the second page there of the advantage of the collaborative purchasing power that I mentioned earlier, and especially as it relates to the cost savings for ebooks. Libraries can't just buy the cheap ebooks that you see on the Amazon website for Kindle, for $11, $12 for a bestseller, because there's a lot of restrictions. The publishers want their share as well if you're going to be lending out these items for free, of course. They would like every single person to buy their own copy. In 2021, all of Shortgrass spent over $120,000 on ebooks, and if you've ever tried to borrow an ebook from the library, you're probably familiar with the hold queue that you enter into for the popular items, and that's despite the huge amount of money we're spending to build up the collection. The Brooks Public Library only had to contribute just over $7,500 to still take advantage of over $120,000 in purchases for the year. In total, we purchased 3,275 new ebooks in 2021. And when you break it down, it essentially means that the Brooks Public Library only paid $2.31 US for every single ebook, despite the actual very large costs I've illustrated in the top right box up there on the handout. I think that's a pretty good deal, and I think that's a really good illustration of why this partnership makes sense, why this collaboration makes sense. Alberta Municipal Affairs, which of course legislates municipalities and also happens to be responsible for legislation for public libraries in Alberta, they really want intermunicipal collaboration. I'm not telling you anything new. And to me, I always use Shortgrass as the perfect example, long-standing example of successful municipal collaboration that you've been part of for over 30 years. And I know collaboration is just one of those buzzwords that makes people's eyes glaze over, but I really do believe that in the case of Shortgrass Library System, it's just a perfect example of the benefits for everyone involved when it's done right and when it's done well. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions? What would be your biggest challenge?
Our biggest challenge right now is meeting the demand for the ebooks, the digital items, while at the same time still having sufficient funds to meet the demand for physical items. We're not at the tipping point yet where people mostly or only want ebooks. We're very close to it, and funding both at the same rate or sufficiently is really, really difficult, and it's taking a lot of money.
Any questions? Well, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you so
got
much.
off easy here.
Please don't hesitate if you, I know you're going to be thinking about this presentation for a long time. It was so riveting. If you think of a question tomorrow morning, and please feel free to shoot me an email. I'd be happy to follow up. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to the motion there, moved by Councillor Jessica that the Shortgrass Library System presentation be accepted as information. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Prentice that the following items of correspondence be received as information, updates on council conferences or workshops, accounts payable listing, and the COVID-19 update. Councillor Idris, any workshops? Okay. Councillor Nesbitt?
No, Your Honor.
Councillor Prentice?
Yeah, just some information items here. I got the new regional landfill has put a contract out to improve the leachate system on the landfill, to upgrade it for the the system that's already there. Had 4 tenders come in on that, and Brooks Asphalt was the low tender, our local contractor. Just over a little over $1 million, and that project should be done close to the end of May, first part of June, likely, if everything goes well. So it's one project. And the new regional water, our Cole Stanley has taken over as manager now of the operation, and he takes over today as a starting date. And he's been the operation manager for the system there for 5.5 years, so he's got lots of experience. So basically, it's a title change more than anything. And Brian Erleg is going to be taking over as the finance manager, and he's been with the new regional for 8.5 years. So we're not going to see any big changes, and it was nothing to do with nobody resigned, just personal thing with that.
Yeah.
So everything is good.
Okay, good. Okay. Councillor Goodenough.
Nothing to report, Your Honor.
Councillor Wardrop. Councillor Jessica. Okay, to the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councillor Goodenough that the week of April 10th to the 16th, 2022 hereby be proclaimed as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in the city of Brooks. Kevin.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to all of council. Across this nation, in times of intense personal crisis and community-wide disasters, the first access point for those seeking all classes of emergency services is 911. Dispatch centers receiving these calls have emerged as the first and single point of contact for persons seeking immediate relief in an emergency. The City of Brooks Fire Department is celebrating the week of April 10th through 16th as National Public Safety Communicators Week. This week, sponsored by the Association of Public Safety Communication Officials, which is celebrated annually, honors the thousands of men and women who respond to emergency calls as dispatch emergency professionals that render life-saving assistance to citizens across Canada. The importance of recognizing and celebrating the hard work of these dedicated professionals at every level is immeasurable. We stand behind the commitment and devotion of these men and women provide to ensure the safety and security of Brooks and area citizens. 911 dispatchers are truly the unsung heroes of public safety. Information material about 911 can be accessed by the public on the city's website. Therefore, staff is recommending that council officially proclaim the week of April 10th through 16th, 2022 as National Public Safety Communicators Week in the City of Brooks. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? I don't know if it had anything to do with this one there, but I know on your report this morning on the radio there, you were talking about the where to direct 911 calls and things like that. I found that interesting. I think a lot of people didn't know that, you know, and where to go for certain calls on that. So, okay, to the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, moved by Councillor Woodruff that April 7th, 2022 be hereby proclaimed as Green Shirt Day in the City of Brooks. Richard Mack.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mayor and Council. On April 6, 2018, 29 passengers unfortunately were involved in a fatal Humboldt Broncos bus crash in Saskatchewan. 16 people lost their lives that day. On April 7th, Logan Boulay, one of the people that succumbed to their injuries, ended up saving 6 people because he was registered as an organ donor. Green Shirt Day was a day to honor those people and to remember all the victims and families of that fatal crash. And it's the day to continue his legacy by wearing green and encourage all Canadians to talk to their families and register as organ donors. Canadian Blood Services estimates that due to the pandemic, only 39%, there's a decrease of 39% in organ and tissue donors. So now you're wondering, what organs can you donate? Well, some of their organs include heart, lungs, liver, pancreas, and even your stomach. Some tissues, you wonder, might be your sclera, which is the white of your eye, might be some heart valves, might be your bones, tendons, and even your cornea. Another fun fact is just one organ, a tissue donor, can save lives of up to 8 people, and they can even make lives better for up to 75 people. So more interesting tidbits and more info like that and how to register, visit organtissuedonation.ca. The City of Brooks is encouraging staff and those in the community to wear green on April 7th and to raise awareness of the need for registered organ and tissue donors. Therefore, administration is recommending that April 7th, 2022 be hereby proclaimed as Green Shirt Day here in the City of Brooks.
Any questions? Okay, Councillor Goodenough.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I'm just curious, so do we have to then go to the website to register, or is there, like, how is the initiative kind of going through?
Through the chair to Councillor Goodenough, that's a good question. So there are a couple of ways that you can actually register. One is actually to just go to the local registry where you renew your licenses, and they do have a data bank where they can put that onto your license. And then the second way is actually just write it on your health card, care card. So if it was issued prior to 2018, you can actually write that on your back of your health card to say that you would like to donate and what organs, what tissues, if there's specific tissues or organs that you want to donate.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, to the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councillor Wardrop that council will award the 2022 street improvement tender to Brooks Asphalt and Aggregate Limited in the amount of $1,962,681.02, excluding GST, and furthermore that Schedule 1 of the project be funded from the sanitary sewer reserve in the amount of $300,939.10, and the remaining $1,661,741.92 be funded from the street improvement program budget. Oh, Alicia, there you are. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alicia.
Thank you through the chair to mayor and council. The city posted the 2022 street improvement project tender on February 18th on the Alberta Purchasing Connect and the City of Brooks website. The tender closed on March 11th. The budget for the city's street improvement project in 2022 is $1.7 million. The street improvement locations and scope of work are as follows. On 2nd Street West, we are replacing 2 sanitary manholes and replacing and upsizing a sanitary sewer. This project is going to involve the removal of some irrigation lines, which are located in the trench. The irrigation piping and landscaping will need to be replaced, which hasn't been included in this project total and will be quoted at a later time. On 6th Street East, we are repaving the roadway and replacing curb and gutter where required from 1st Avenue East to Sutherland Drive East. Schedule 3 is Center Street, which again is repaving, but replacement of sidewalk curb and gutter as required from 1st Avenue to 3rd Avenue. McKittrick Place East. This is carried over from last year from the 2021 street improvement project, and we'll be putting the top lift of asphalt on. Schedule 5 is Sutherland Drive and the 7th Street East intersection. We're going to be paving the boulevards on the northwest and northeast corner of the intersection. We received 2 tenders from the following bidders: Brooks Asphalt and Aggregate, which including a 10% contingency came in at a total of $1,962,981 $1,662,681.02. And the second bid was from AECon Transportation Limited, and including their 10% contingency was $2,037,962.41. Staff evaluated the tender submissions, and both contractors are capable of doing the work. Brooks Asphalt and Aggregate Limited is more favorable due to the lower price. However, it is still $262,681.02 over budget. Schedule 1 of the work on 2nd Street West involves the replacement and upsizing of sanitary sewer for a total of $300,939.10, which could be funded from the sanitary sewer reserve. Therefore, we're recommending that council award the 2022 street improvement tender to Brooks Asphalt and Aggregate Limited in the amount of $1,962,681.02, excluding GST. And furthermore, that Schedule 1 of the project be funded from the sanitary sewer reserve in the amount of $300,939.10, and the remaining $1,661,741.92 be funded from the street improvement project budget.
Okay, any questions? Councilor Goodenough?
Hi, Alicia. Just a quick question. The street improvement tax, or sorry, projects, are these all the ones that will be done for this year? Because I'm just curious, I've heard some residents up on 16th Street almost saying that it's like a sinkhole in front of their place. And I'm just curious, how does that get on the list of projects to get done, or if you could help me on that?
Thank you through the chair to Councillor Goodenough. Typically, we go based on our infrastructure master plans. They have recommendations for projects over different timeframes, and that's how we go based on selection. But Dawn and I work also on a need basis as well. I'm not aware of the sinkhole on 16th Street. I'm not sure if Dawn is.
Councilor Good or Councilor Idris?
I actually believe I saw it on the Newell Connect, the issue on the 16th, and I actually driven there, and it is bad.
It's very bad. In fact, I think it was starting to be repaired, but some of the gravel has actually now hit the car and scratched the paint, and so just curious on that.
Okay, you want to comment, Don?
Through the chair to Councilor Goodenough. There is a sinkhole in Ingram Park. Is that the one you're talking about?
I think you said 16th Street.
16th.
Okay, I'm not aware of one there, but
And maybe I'm over exaggerating on the word sinkhole. Like I know we think like LA sinkholes, but
those type of repairs are done as they come up. We repair them as they come up. So like we have one in Ingram right now. Okay. We just did locates on it. It'll be getting fixed tomorrow. And if there is a sinkhole on 16th, then we'll go take a look at it. And if it's serious, we'll get after it.
okay. So I guess just my question then is, does that include in these budget numbers here, or that's over and above, or do we have a reserve for that?
Those types of repairs are done out of our operating budget.
Okay, thank you.
And just to go back, I guess if there's a situation like that, they get a hold of the city, and then again, if it's needed, you guys do the repair work, right? Okay. Okay, perfect, okay. Okay, back to the motion then. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councillor Nesbitt that council appoint Todd Green, Joseph Entz, William Shop, Josh Fitzgerald, Callum Patton, Jenna Presley, and Aaron Olivier as weed inspectors for the city of Brooks pursuant to Section 7 of the Weed Control Act, and furthermore, that this appointment ceases at the time their employment ceases with the county of Newell. Amy.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mayor and Council. The Weed Control Act states that a local authority shall appoint inspectors to enforce and monitor compliance within that act within the municipality. The City of Brooks is currently in a contract with the County of Newell for the provision of weed inspector services. As they will be providing these services again, the city will need to appoint a number of their staff members as weed inspectors. Therefore, administration is recommending that the people noted in the motion are appointed as weed inspectors, and further that the appointment ceases at the time their employment ceases with the County of Newell.
Any questions? Council Goodenough?
Oh, I had a cup of coffee this morning. Sir, I just want clarification on this. I know it says that they're going to enforce and monitor. And then usually every year, we get a report back on the types of weeds that they've looked at. I'm curious on the weeds that we see on 2nd Street, on some of our commercial businesses. Are they actually going up to those businesses to inform them, to educate them on these types of weeds, or the type of weeds that are growing in their area?
Through the chair to Councillor Goodenough, if they are the noxious weeds or prohibited noxious weeds, then they will. The other side of that is that our CPOs and bylaw enforcement, they're also appointed as weed inspectors, and that may fall under our community standards bylaw as well, where you have to keep grass and weeds 6 inches or less.
Councillor Wardrop?
Kind of to that point, what about the weeds that are on those brownfield properties, the ones that, I was talking to a constituent in the fall about that issue, that they, like on Second Street as well, that, they've got their business there. They're trying to keep their business looking neat and tidy, but then they're beside kind of an empty lot. I don't think that one is particularly a brownfield, but just like an empty lot that is, doesn't have a business attached to it, but it is owned by somebody. And then it has these big weeds all over it, and it's very unsightly. So is the city allowed to go and spray those, or how is that taken care of?
Through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, we wouldn't do it as the city. We would have either the people we're appointing now do it, depending on the type of weed, or again, our CPOs and bylaw enforcement can contact the property owner, because whether or not it's vacant or not, you still have that responsibility to keep the weeds or grass to under 6 inches.
So just as a follow-up, so best advice to that constituent would be to like report it on the Newell app, or, right, and get our CPOs to contact the property owner?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, they can definitely either report it on Newell Connect, contact the fire hall, contact myself, and like I said, depending on the type of weed and the process we have to follow, we can start a file and get it dealt with.
Okay, any other questions? I often thought those, with those weeds there, and I know the ones you're talking about, and sometimes they grow up between the sidewalk cracks, and sometimes they get really high. They're almost half a meter high sometimes there too. But I often thought that maybe for communities in bloom, or maybe there's an organization in town, even if there's an education process, that you go into the place and explain to them, I know there's probably eco-friendly ways to dispose of those weeds, to do that, to get rid of those weeds there too, because they are unsightly, even if there's 1 or 2 big ones hanging around there too. But I think maybe, I don't know if communities in bloom, but I said there's an education process in that there too, yeah, so. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, I got a minute there, so you can ask one more, Councillor Goodenough there. Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Okay. Are we close enough to 5 o'clock here? Okay. You're going to have to wait a second there, Lisa. We have a public hearing coming up at 5 o'clock here, so I just have to wait officially until I get the word here that it's 5 o'clock. No, I don't have any jokes, I can tell. Maybe Councillor Jessica can talk about his holiday in Hawaii there. No.
Take money.
Yeah. We could have had a commercial break and maybe sold our council meeting, eh? Okay, it's 5 o'clock now. 5 o'clock somewhere now. Yeah. Okay, I'd like to call this public meeting to order. This is in reference to BRZ mill rate bylaw 2208. So I call the meeting to order and an explanation of the proposed bylaw. And that's Amy.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. This bylaw is an annual bylaw that sets the rate for the business tax levy for businesses within the BRZ. First reading of the bylaw occurred at the March 21st council meeting, and no comments have been received since the notices that were attached in your package were sent to the businesses.
Okay, any persons speaking in favor of the proposed bylaw? I see no persons in favor of anybody speaking in opposition of the proposed bylaw? Nobody speaking in opposition of the proposed bylaw. Final comments, Amy?
The only final comments is that administration is recommending that second and third reading be completed today, and the bylaw is adopted.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to, we'll adjourn the hearing at 5:02. Okay. Okay, yeah. And now, moved by Councilor Idris that council formally adopt and approve the City of Brooks 2021 to 2025 strategic plan. Lisa.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council, at the beginning of each council term, one of the first tasks on the council agenda is to develop a strategic plan. So for the City of Brooks, our process begins with council brainstorming a number of areas for staff to focus on, which we call strategic focus areas. These focus areas, each of which has activities, strategies, projects, and deliverables identified, will serve as goals and objectives within our strategic plan. The second half of the strategic plan is a 4-year work plan, which managers have created to cover all of the projects and tasks within each focus area. This work plan will be used during the annual review of the strategic plan and will help guide budgetary planning. This portion of the strategic plan is designed to be fluid and flexible, changing as tasks progress and targets are met. And additionally, if there are any new tasks created as spin-offs, they can be added to the work plan for completion as well. And one such adjustment, naturally, has already been identified. Under the community viability focus area, staff is seeking a bit of clarification on the theater and performance spaces task. And the question that staff had was just a little bit of more information on council's vision for that. Was the expectation that a new space be built or that we work with existing space? Would something need to be city owned and operated? Or what was the vision behind that tasks, as it does change the timeline, the budget, and the staff time required for our work plan. So we are looking for a little bit more clarification on that point, and then we can adjust the work plan accordingly. And then the recommendation from staff is that council formally adopt and approve the City of Brooks 2021 to 2025 strategic plan.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Woodrup.
Thanks, Lisa, and the rest of the team. This looks awesome. I'm really excited. I did have a question about, under the sense of belonging, shifting attitudes around calling Brooks home. Could you clarify? I think I know what that means, but it might be unclear for anyone else reading.
Sure. Through the chair to Councilor Wardrop. The concept behind that was that several people will move to Brooks and live here for, say, 15 years. But then when somebody asks them where they're from, they always say that they're from Southern Ontario, for example. And that it takes a long time for somebody to actually start saying that you're from Brooks, despite the fact that you lived and worked here for 15 years. And I use that example because I do it all the time. So that was part of that campaign, would be to start getting people to say that this is their home and that they're proud to call Brooks their home. Whether you're from, southern Saskatchewan or around the world, that this is your home and we're proud to have you and we would like you to make it your home.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just one, and we come back every year sort of to analyze it, to make sure that we get the updates. And do we do that annually, quarterly? How do we do that again? Just to review everybody on that.
Through the chair to Mayor Petrie, what our process has been in the past, and it can certainly be adjusted if staff is directed so, is the management team will get together once a year and go through the work plan, essentially post any updates that we have in terms of progress, and then we would present that back to City Council to let everyone know what our progress has been. So we like to do that annually in the spring, and then that would usually then, and by the last year of council's term, would give us a 6-month sprint, like I like to say, to wrap up everything that's remaining on the plan.
Okay, and one last one. They often talk about living documents. Is this a living document?
The work plan certainly is. The goals and objectives, we try not to change too much because it wouldn't be very proper of us to change your goals on you, but the work plan certainly is. As it's worked in the past, sometimes we'll research something and the project, although was a good idea at the time, it just isn't viable. So it'll essentially just fall off the work plan, or something will become completed, or a spin-off task could be created. So the work plan definitely is very much fluid and living.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your work you put into this too. Yeah, thank you. Okay, to the motion, got more questions. Go ahead. Just wait, sorry, yeah.
Just the theater space, just a little more direction on that so that we can draft out a little further as we go.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who brought that forward here, the theater space. Was it me? Yeah, okay. I'm trying to think of what I thought about that. The only thing I could think of was the use of two things: the Griffin Park Theater, which is an excellent theater. The other one, I think, I know in one of our surveys, somebody had talked about it, as for the rodeo grounds, putting like an outdoor one there to have, an outdoor theater. That's the only thing I can think of about that, having an event like that. Go ahead there, Councilor Idris.
I think the conversation started when we were talking about a community hall. And that Brooks actually does not have a community hall. Yes, there are commercial stuff. Yes, there are the Griffin Park thing, but a place where different cultures can show their thing or their celebrations, or a place of art groups where they can go and play and people can attend and watch. So some sort of a community space, and we actually even went back as far as 2008. Lisa, you commented on that. When as part of the New World Regional Expo, one of the recommendations that came out of that is a community space in Brooks.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Woodruff.
Yeah, just to add on to that, we did talk a little bit about how the space at Griffin Park is a really nice theater space, but it would be nice to have something that feels like collectively like part of the community, kind of more like along the lines of a City Hall. Just, I don't know if you recall that part of the conversation.
We talked about the restrictions at the Griffin Park.
Yeah, that the city would have more autonomy over the types of events that could happen, and not having to go through kind of that booking process and work with the school like that, having more flexibility there.
Yeah, did we talk about an outdoor space or an indoor space, or a sort of a combination of that? A combination of that. Does that give you anything to work with, Lisa?
It won't be me, it'll be Randy.
Basically, yeah, I think we sort of have a vague idea of what we want, and then we'll have to sort of, again, we talk about the living document, we have those ideas and kind of go from there. Yeah. Alan?
Yeah, I believe that does give us the direction then, and for us to develop that out further and come back with something.
Okay, thank you, yeah. Okay, now to the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, now this is the BRZ mill rate bylaw 2208, moved by Councilor Goodenough that bylaw 2208 be read a second time. Any questions on the BRZ? No, okay, nothing else. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councilor Jessica that bylaw, did I read these backwards? No. Okay, that bylaw number 2208 being a bylaw of the City of Brooks in the province of Alberta to set a rate for the business tax levy on business is located in the Brooks Town Center Revitalization Zone be read a third time and adopted. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councilor Prentice that bylaw 2209 be forwarded to the April 18th, 2022 council meeting for consideration. Oh, Shelley.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. So back in 2018, section 608 was added to the Municipal Government Act when it was updated. And therefore, the legislation now allows documents to be sent by electronic means if the recipient has provided consent. Following that, in 2019, actually following the passing of Bill 25, which is the Red Tape Reduction Implementation Act, Section 608.1 was added to the MGA. And that section states that council may, by bylaw, establish the process to electronically transmit documents, notifications, and information under Part 9, 10, and 11 of the Act. Now, those MGA parts include assessment, taxation, and assessment review boards. And of course, would include assessment and property tax notices. So the city has just recently gained the capability to email our combined assessment and property tax notices automatically through our financial software. The process would require the taxpayer to create a MyBrooks online account using their roll number and their secure unique access code, which is provided to them on their assessment and tax notice. Once signed up, the taxpayer would have access to their account information and have the option to opt in to either have an email sent to them with their combined assessment and tax notice, or saying that it's available, and then they could go onto the web portal to access it. Or again, have a PDF attached to the email itself. So if council chooses to establish a bylaw for electronic transmission of assessment and taxation documents, they must be satisfied that the bylaw ensures the security and confidentiality of the notices, documents, and information being sent. And they must also give notice to the proposed bylaw in a manner they consider is likely to bring that bylaw to the attention of substantially all persons affected. So the city will be advertising to the public that the passing of this bylaw is being considered, and that upon approval from council, taxpayers will have the option to receive their combined assessment and tax notices by email. This is totally voluntary, where the taxpayer may opt in or opt out at any time, and they'll have total control over the setup and updating of their personal information. Therefore, administration recommends that bylaw 2209 be forwarded to the April 18th, 2022 council meeting for consideration.
Okay, any questions? Okay, to the motion. All those in favor? Thanks, Shelley. Carried. Okay, questions from the media there. Sandra.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. For Shelley, actually, before she goes away. For the Hi, sorry. For the paperless PDFing of information, can that be stretched to utilities, billing, anything else, billing for city residents?
Thanks for the question, Sandra. Actually, this bylaw wouldn't include that information, but we already do email utility notices to residents. So in this bylaw, it just pertains to parts 9, 10, and 11 of the Act, which is assessment and taxation notice. I think we've been emailing utility bills for quite a few years anyways, for sure, already.
Thank you. Apparently, I haven't read mine.
I think you live in the county.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate that. On to my next question. In the strat plan information, can you just explain how I'm reading this? Some of the boxes are gray and some of the boxes are white.
we'll bring, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Lisa will come back here, yeah.
Sure. So the work plan that's attached, I want to say it's the last 7 or 8 pages of the document, is just supposed to act as essentially as a Gantt chart for managers as to when it is that they'll be working on that. The formatting's not great. I need to tighten it up a little bit. But for the gray boxes, that just indicates at which quarter and which year managers and staff are going to be working on those items.
So then the white box shows they should be complete.
Ideally, yeah. So if you want to go to the what's the very first one here? Or we can look at future developments. This will be a fun one. The old rodeo grounds, decide what is to be done with the land, is expected to be worked on in Q2, 3, and 4 of 2022. And ideally, a decision would be made by the end of 2022 with construction moving into 2023.
Okay, thank you. And on the strat plan, looking at the CRA, can you please give me a little bit more detail on the inventory of aesthetic issues and determine cause and corrective actions?
Okay, Alan, go ahead, yeah.
Yes, so we do have some aesthetic issues that we've seen there. What comes to mind, there's some parging that's coming off. We have some grout that's coming out. Those need to be sealed and regrouted. We have, I think you can see on some of the brick where it's a little bit crystallized, so we need to clean that out. Got to make sure some of our downspouts are working properly, and you know, those are some maintenance items. Some that are a little bit more involved is we see some settling of both some concrete areas and some outside grassed areas. So we want to make sure that we can get a list of all the stuff that needs to be done, figure out why it's happening, and then come up with a plan to repair it all.
Is there an option to do any changes inside the arena itself?
That we'll have to see, you know, once we get through this, to see all what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Sandra. Okay, moved by Councillor Jessica that council close the meeting to the public for agenda item 11A, legal as per section 27(1), FOIP at 5:17. All those in favor? Carried.